Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, October the 3rd, 2023. It is currently 10:52 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, this isn't the type of episode that I like to do. In fact, this is a type of episode that I hate it. I despise it. It's just everything is wrong about it. But I feel like I need to do this like one last time just so that everyone knows how we're going to move forward. Most likely, if I'm being just very honest with myself, probably this is a waste of my time because it probably would not matter if I ever said anything about it. But I'm very particular that if we talk about something, that I'm going to circle back around to it, give an update, and then move on. I tend to be very open and very specific and very detailed about things. So if we've ever talked about it, then I'm always going to come back around and give some kind of update. So because I feel like I gotta close that circle, right? I opened it, but I got to close it, right? I gave the first point, but I got to give the second point. I gave the beginning, I got to give the conclusion. And maybe it's just more my thing. I think the average listener probably doesn't care, but I just feel like I have to. So I hope that you will have a little bit of patience with me, show a little bit of mercy, a little bit of kindness. I know, look, the majority of people listening to this podcast are probably not that invested. Whether this podcast is here, whether it's gone, they don't really care one way or the other. But I do know that there are some that are, at least I'm going to believe, who are a little bit more invested in the future of this podcast. So I think for them, they should at least know how we're going to move forward, what the future at least looks like, at least in my mind. And then we'll just lay all of this, we'll put all of this behind us, and we'll move forward into wherever the future leads us. I think that's the best way to approach it. But I want to begin with a very important scripture, a scripture that has been kind of the philosophy for me for a very long time. All right. It's found in Matthew chapter 10. Now, I do understand there's a historical context, and I understand we cannot take all of this and make it applicable to our situation because there's very much a historical context. But in Matthew chapter 10, all right, Matthew chapter 10, starting in verse 5, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, so Jesus calls unto him his 12 disciples, right? Clearly, this is a very historical situation with a very historical setting. He tells them, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Freely you have received, so freely give. And I've always tried to make that a basic philosophy, at least that segment, that overall philosophy is the way ministry should be done. Freely I have received of the grace of God. Freely God saved me, forgave me. My salvation is absolutely free for me. It cost Jesus Christ, him shedding his blood, my sin being imputed to his account. All of those things, we know there was a cost. But for me, it's absolutely free. And because I have freely received, freely should I give. Freely I should do everything in my power as a believer to teach the Word of God and give the Word of God out to anyone and everyone, never putting anything behind a paywall, never charging people to download a sermon, never doing anything like that. Never. That's always been like just, I've lived and died by that years and years. Well, way, like we could go way back. I started a cassette ministry. I mean, that's how far back this goes, where I recorded a cassette, I duplicated them, and then we put an ad in the Sword of the Lord newspaper, and anybody who wanted to receive cassettes on a monthly basis, free of charge, they would send me, they would email me, or they would contact us, usually phone call, give us their address, and we would then send out the cassettes free of charge. That was costing a considerable amount of money sending those cassettes. It was the shipping and handling that was killing us. At one point, I think there was one island we were sending cassettes to. It was like $20 every time we sent out a mailing. It was crazy. And we were doing that free of charge. Then I transitioned that cassette ministry into at the local Christian bookstores. I asked the people working at the bookstore, can we put a little fishbowl right here at the counter, and we're just going to put a bunch of cassettes, and anyone could just reach in and grab a cassette anytime they want, and we will refill that on a regular basis. Just more cassettes, more teaching. We did that free of charge. Then early on, when we first discovered sermon audio, this goes way back. I mean, very early on, we were like, how do we get our content on here? We didn't even know how to get our content on here. We didn't even know how to record digitally. So we recorded cassettes, sent our cassettes off to was it like Pennsylvania, I think, where we sent them? And then they converted it to a digital file, and then they uploaded it to sermon audio. And we had to pay for not only sermon audio, we had to pay for the service of sending our cassettes there. Again, free of charge. We did not charge anyone. Other ministries that back then, early in the internet, if you don't remember, to download, MacArthur did this, and a lot of them did this. To download one of their sermons was like $1, $2, $3 per sermon. We were like, we are never going to do that. Now, and even though we were a little small church in the middle of nowhere, Texas, we never. Freely we have received, freely we would give. And we've always done that. We've sent out books for free. It's been free. That's what we've always operated as, and that's what I've always tried to continue to do. But while we are freely giving, because we have freely received, there is an aspect of it that's not free. And that's always been the cost to produce all of this. It cost us so much money to be on sermon audio. It cost us so much money to be on our podcast hosting site, Spreaker. It cost us money when we were providing curriculum for everyone, digital curriculum. That was costing us over $50 a month. Whenever we send out books, that cost us. In fact, in the midst of all worrying about money, it was on Sunday that I received a phone call, someone wanting us to pay their rent, pay their bills, and buy them groceries. So we ended up giving them a $100 gift card to try to help buy them groceries. So we've always tried to help, give. That's always been my mentality is give, because we have freely received. I have freely received the mercy and grace of God. I don't deserve God's forgiveness. I don't deserve his grace. I don't deserve his love. I'm a sinner. I don't deserve anything. So if I can freely receive, then I should freely give. That's always been my philosophy. And I'm gonna try to go down maintaining that philosophy to the best of my ability. But reality started creeping in, because for the longest time, even though it was costing all of this, the ability to do so was present. The ability to in a sense take on all of that cost, it was there. I was able to pull it off to some level, right? I was able to send out those cassettes without anyone else helping to do so. We were always able to maintain it, year after year. But 2023 came around, and all of a sudden, we realized things began to change. And that led to the episode that I produced on September the 22nd, 2023. I turned on this very microphone inside this very studio and said, hey guys, we just received notification. One of the platforms that we are on, they're increasing the price. We were paying $50 a month. Now we're going to be paying $60 a month. Oh, there's a chance that our other platforms are going to go up. And our pod page, the price of that may go up. So the prices of everything that we're trying to do, it's going up. And this is going to put us in a situation where we're going to be paying around, actually more than this, but this was like the bare minimum, $2,400 a year to be able to broadcast on all the platforms, be able to live broadcast. It's going to cost us $2,400 a year. And the reality is, I don't know if we can do that. In fact, I don't think it's going to be manageable. We finally reached the point where the cost is going to be greater than my ability to pull that off. And that's just trying to break even. That's not even trying to get, I mean, that's not gaining anything. That's just trying to pay the cost. So I thought, you know what? I'll at least turn on the microphone, tell everyone, hey, here's the situation. And hey, you know what you can do. And my thinking was, we're in the top 5% of all podcasts in the world. We're literally listed in the top 5%. I mean, come on. With the numbers we get, you know, I was thinking that, hey, just let people know this should be an easy problem to resolve. So I turned on the microphone, told everyone, hey, $2,400 a year. Here's the situation. So what can we do? So I told everyone. And then I came up with an experiment. I'm like, you know what? So there was the episode, September the 22nd. Then I came up with an experiment. I thought, you know what I'll do? I'm starting this new podcast series called the Bible Pop Quiz Podcast Series, but I'll make it a podcast. I'll make it its own standalone podcast because a lot of people hate my teaching. They hate everything about me, but they can't hate doing a Bible pop quiz. I mean, who can hate that, right? I mean, it's a Bible pop quiz, and I'll design it in such a way that it will actually be beneficial to people studying the Bible. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So we created that. And then I thought, you know what? My podcast hosting site is always telling me monetize. I'm like, well, I don't want to monetize the Theology Central podcast because sometimes it would be like, hey, here's a commercial. Now it would be me standing behind the pulpit at Victory Baptist Church getting ready to preach a sermon. Who wants to hear commercials before a sermon? That just seems crass. That just seems wrong. That seems fleshly. That seems no. So I'm like, I'm never going to monetize that, but we can at least see what monetization would look like. We can at least do an experiment. So we did an experiment. We put the commercials on the Bible Pop Quiz podcast. First, we ran into immediate problems. But we'll talk about all of the results. But we started doing that just to see what would happen. So I did the episode. We started an experiment. Let's at least monetize the Bible Pop Quiz podcast. See what it looks like. See what it feels like. See what happens. All right. But there was an expectation in all of this. So there's the episode. There's the experiment, and there was an expectation, and my expectation, I'm just going to be honest with you. Maybe I was so naive. My expectation was this. I mean, come on. 20 people given $10 a month. I mean, the problem is solved. I mean, 20 people out of the thousands upon thousands that listen, 20 people given $10 a month. The problem's over. I mean, it's over. It's done. We don't even have to ever worry about that. That problem's going to be met. It's going to be just like that. Boom, boom. It'll be just like that. It'll be like that. And even if it's not, and my thought was I figured we would have 30 to 50 people. This is what I thought, between 30 to 50 people who would say they're going to give at least $5 to $10 a month. And if you took the $5 and the $10 a month, you had 30 to 50 people. We would not only meet the goal, we probably would be able to bring in a little extra, and then the problem would be over. Okay, the end. I thought it would be done. And then we can try to see what the monetization would look like, just to see how much money would be, how much money we're losing, how much we could gain. We would just know from that point on what it looks like. So that was my expectation. So the episode was September the 22nd, where I kind of outlined the issue. The experiment was the monetization. The expectation was 30 to 50 people giving, $5 to $10 a month. Problem solved. Everything's done. We don't ever have to worry about it again. But here is the reality. Since September the 22nd, I received one email stating that someone had given $10 a month. I'm like, okay, that's great. That's one person. Great. I received an email from someone saying they possibly would give us $5. I think it may have been the same email or a separate email. Someone said, well, if you do put commercials, please put them at the beginning and the end so I can skip them, which then I was like, well, I wonder what would happen if they skip them. Do I even get paid for that? So I was kind of like conflicted, like, Don't know if I will or don't know if I don't know what would happen there. So then I was like, okay, if then I started thinking, well, if everyone was to start skipping them, that could be the end of that would not even help the monetization. Like I don't even know what that would work. So then, and that was basically it. So in other words, I thought the responses would be far greater, but it was far less than I could have even hoped for. So then I was like, okay, so here's the situation. I give the episode, we do the experiment, and the expectation was 30 to 50, and the reality is complete silence. Nobody seems to be that concerned with it. And then when it comes to the monetization, here's the reality of it. If you listen, we did an episode about it. Immediately, some of the commercials being added to it were like, "Ooh, that's a little questionable." So that was already number one. We was going to have to possibly start trying to see if we can have some of the commercials removed. What do we do? Second thing started happening is it happened yesterday is, according to the podcasting hosting site, I was going to have to try to drive everyone to that hosting site. I was going to have to drive everyone there, because if I drove everyone to that particular site and that particular app, that we're going to increase the money. Okay, well then that already was going to be like, so now every time I turn on the microphone, I got to try to tell people, please listen to us on this app. Please listen to us on this app. Please listen to us on this app. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a hassle. It's not too much, but okay. Well, then I started thinking, well, wait a minute. Looking at the numbers for the monetization, I think it's going to take 1,000 downloads to equal $1. I'm going to have to get 1,000 downloads to equal $1. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to really start hustling. I'm going to have to get on the daily grind to get to 1,000 to get $1, to get 1,000 to get $1. And when you have a brand new podcast and you're trying to get on all the different apps, it's going to take probably 2 to 3 years to try to build the same audience, maybe for the Bible podcast, the Bible Pop Quiz podcast, as I have for the Theology Central. I think it's going to take, man, that's going to take a while. It's going to take 2 or 3. I don't know if we'd even be around in 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I don't know. So then I started thinking, okay, it's going to be a full-time job trying to beg and plead people to use that app. It's going to be a full-time job trying to figure out how and ways to, in a sense, hustle, do that daily grind to build the audience. And then I got to deal with what the commercials are or not, possibly trying to remove them. And then yesterday, for some weird reason, on the Spreaker podcasting app, which is the app I have to get everyone to go to, the commercials are just gone. I don't know what happened to them. So then, or at least on my side. So I've tried to contact them. So I'm like, this is going to, the commercials are going to become a full-time job. I'm like, I can't do that. That just takes away from being able to actually produce content. So here's the situation. On September the 22nd, I did the episode telling everyone the situation. We tried an experiment with the monetization. My expectation is 30 to 50 people would be like, no problem. We would do that within 72 hours, at least within a week. It would be like, oh, okay, never mind everyone. I could turn on the microphone. Hey, everything's taken care of. We're set for the next year. Don't worry about anything. Okay, but the reality is, 2 emails. The reality was 2 emails. So basically, that my expectation was way shorter than I thought, which then led me to being a little discouraged. Obviously, the reality is with the commercials, that's going to be way too difficult. So this is how we're going to work it. Here is going to be the future. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back. I'm going to return to the philosophy that I've always tried to maintain. And that is, freely have I received, so freely I'm going to give. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to wait to at least hear back from our podcast hosting site to at least explain what happened to the commercials, because I'm just curious how it works. Once I get that, whatever the answer is, why the ads are there or not there, once ever I get that, just because I want to know, then I'm going to remove the ads from the Bible Pop Quiz podcast. Boom, gone. They're just going to be gone. And we're just going to return back to, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on the microphone, as often as I can, and I'm going to do the best I can to produce as much content as I can to benefit as many people as I can. The end. What does that mean moving forward? I don't know. I know that there's a high probability, at least humanly speaking, there's a high probability that I don't know when you're going to open up the app one day, whichever app you open, and it's all going to be gone. The Theology Central podcast will no longer be there. Just based on the mathematical reality, $2,400 a year. No way that's going to happen. So something's going to have to change. But I'm not going to, I can't continue to worry about it, or it's just not beneficial. It's just going to become a burden and it's going to take away all the fun. It's going to take away the spontaneity, the joy, it's just going to turn into something else. And I don't want it to turn into something else. And here's what I know I'm not going to do. Just this morning, I received a notification from the Rejoice Christian radio station. Rejoice Christian radio station. It's an app that I have on my iPad, and it's the radio station of Pensacola Christian College in Florida, right? And so they just sent me a notification that, hey, tune in today. We start our share-a-thon. Now, I don't know if you've ever listened to a share-a-thon on a Christian radio station. I don't know if you ever have, but let me tell you exactly how it goes. Here's how a share-a-thon works. They spend hour after hour after hour, not just for one day, not just for 2 days, sometimes 3 days, sometimes for an entire week, begging, pleading, begging, pleading, begging, pleading, begging, pleading, begging, pleading for money. And I'm like, nope, not going to do that. Not going to do that. Not going to do that. I've seen other podcasters, well, they'll do like a 24-hour marathon or a 48-hour marathon in order to raise money. I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. If I do a 24-hour marathon, it's not going to be to raise money. It'll be to teach or to study. I'm not going to do that. So, it would be for fun. It would not be 24-hour marathon of sermon reviews or a 24-hour marathon in the book of Leviticus, or it'd be something like that, right? So I'm not going to do that, because if you got to beg and you've got to plead and that's just no way, just not doing that. If it comes to an end, it's going to come to an end dignified. It's going to come to an end this way. This is the way I'm thinking of ending it. I'm just going to broadcast. And then whenever I know the end is near, I'm not going to warn anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to do anything. You're going to open the app and it's just going to be gone. Everything's going to be deleted. Everything. All the content's going to be deleted. It's not going to ever exist. I'm not going to save one episode. It's just going to be deleted. It's just going to be gone. And the end. I'm not going to give a warning. I'm not going to tell anybody, because my original thought was try to do what I can. Give everyone a chance in October, give everyone a chance in November, give everyone a chance in December, and make a decision in January. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to broadcast, and whenever I realize this is just not going to work, I'm just going to end it. Now, not going to be not even a warning. There's not even going to be like tomorrow's the last. No, it's just, there's not going to even be a chance. It's just going to be gone, because that's the way to go, right? Freely you have received, freely you give, and you freely give until you can't give. That's what you do. There's always an end to what you can give, because there's an end to, there comes an end. You can't pay $2,400 a year. You just can't do that. You just can't. There comes a point. So maybe I could modify, remove this, remove that, until we're only broadcasting maybe only on one platform. That destroys all of our numbers, but then who cares about the numbers? Because what do the numbers even represent? You're in the top 5% of all podcasts in the world. What does that represent? If when you say, hey guys, I don't know if we're going to be around, and basically silence. Well, then you can only interpret silence one way, and that is, and whether it's right or whether it's wrong, you interpret silence as you had a good run and everyone's ready to move on. And you're like, you know what? That's fine. And you bring it to an end. So I can interpret silence pretty well. And I think that's a good way to interpret it. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go out. I don't know how much longer. I don't know. $2,400. That's a lot of money per year. You may not perceive it being a lot, but that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. So that's what we're going to do. Who knows? Things could change tomorrow. Things could change next week. Things could change next month. Things could change before the end of the year. Things could change at the beginning of the year. It could change for the better. Could change for the worse. But that's what we can do. I think I have put forth. Here's what I will say about this podcast. Here's what I will say. Quality of the podcast is subjective. Because some listeners love it, some listeners hate it. That will always be subjective. That's a personal preference thing. But I will stand by this. The quantity that this podcast has produced, no one can come close to questioning the quantity. I mean, we put out almost 1,000 episodes per year. Nobody, the quantity, I think I stand by it. No podcast can compete with the quantity. The variety, all the different things that we try to do, from Bible study exercises to devotional messages to commentary to everything that we do. I think the variety nobody can match the variety. I think the originality in the sense that we don't follow the corporate, manufactured template of mainstream podcasts. We throw all of that out and we just do it in a more real, organic way. I think that there's a positive in that. Those are the strong suits. I've done my best, and that's where we are. That's where we are. So that's how we're going to go out. We're going to go out in a more dignified way. I'm going to go out with my head held high, and I'm just going to be grateful that I got a chance to broadcast. Then my broadcasting time stopped, and then I got a second chance. And so I made the most of the second chance. I stood strong with some of my principles of not just teaching theology, but trying to do theology, question, challenge, struggle. And I think we did pretty good. With that. So if it comes to an end, it comes to an end. But it came to an end maintaining the principle. We have freely received, so freely we're going to give. And I'm going to give until I'm like, well, I can't pay that. I can't do that. Just same thing, kind of like what we did with the curriculum, right? Freely we have received, freely we gave. We gave everyone access to digital curriculum month after month after month after month after month after month after month at a cost and that cost was getting ready to go up with that as well, right? That was $50 a month. Just to do that. So, at some point you just can't keep doing it. You just can't. I mean, you can't, it's not like I got an ATM here in the studio that I can just go take money out from every day. So, that's where we are, and that's how we're going to go out. So you keep listening. And when you open up the app, one day and it's all gone, you know why. And, that's it. That's how we're going to move forward. And I'll just end with reading this. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. So our main principle is going to be freely you have received, freely give. That's what we're going to continue to focus on. I know what I have freely received. I don't deserve it in any way, shape, or form. I could not earn it. It's all because of God's grace. It's all because of God's mercy. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That's freely gave. Freely give. Christ died for me while I was yet a sinner. Christ loved me before I loved him. He is faithful when I am unfaithful. He is gracious and merciful. He forgives my sins when I don't deserve that. That's all freely given. So if I have freely received that because he freely gave it, then I will freely give as much as I can to minister to as many as I can in any way that I can, for as long as I can, and whatever good comes from it, great. If nothing good comes from it, at least I gave it forth an effort. And then I'll end with 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and I do apologize for taking up too much of your time here. It's not what I wanted to do, but 1 Corinthians chapter 9, we did have to close this so we can just be done with this entire chapter. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Paul kind of he's kind of saying this to the church of Corinth. He's kind of talking about, hey, As an apostle, don't we have some ability to expect something here, right? As a minister, do we have some ability to expect something here? And he says, and he asks kind of a rhetorical question here. Who goeth a warfare anytime at his own charges? I mean, I was in the military. They were like, okay, it's time we're going to go to Iraq or we're going to Afghanistan. Now, hey, you have to buy your own equipment. You have to buy your own plane ticket. No, as someone fighting in the military, you don't do it on your own expense. Well, same way sometimes with, is there an expectation here? Who planted the vineyard and eateth not of the fruit thereof? Or who feedeth a flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? All right. Say I these things as a man, or saith not the law the same also? For as it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth God not care for the oxen? I think at some point there has to come some rhetorical questions about, well, how does this all work out? And you can interpret those passages any way you want. First and foremost, that applies to the local church, not to a Christian podcast. But yeah, you can. So you focus on that aspect of it. All right. So there you have it. September 22nd was the episode where I laid it all out. $2,400 a year. We tried an experiment, the monetization of the Bible Pop Quiz podcast. I had an expectation that just like that, it'd be all taken care of. Just be done. It was just going to be, and I really thought I was going to have to turn on the microphone going, hey guys, that's it. We've done it. Right. The reality is almost virtual silence, and the monetization experiment has produced more problems and much more work than I envisioned. So we're going to get rid of that. And the future is, freely I have received, freely I'm going to give, and we're going to continue to freely give as much and as long as we can, with no more words about it, no more speaking about it. I still may every once in a while say, hey, if you'd like to support, here's the way you can. I still may do that here or there, but that's going to be no more podcast episodes dedicated to the subject, no more talking about the subject. It's just done and it's over. And I apologize that on September the 22nd, I made the bad decision of mentioning it in the first place. That was my own fault. I should not have done that. And I apologize for that. I think my philosophy has always been sound. I think it has been. I have freely received, I should freely give. And whether people will either think that it's all just free and for everyone, or they will understand that there's a great cost in time and effort and money to produce all of this and do all of this. And they will either so benefit greatly from what we do that they'll want to help, or they won't. And I shouldn't have to say anything. So I kind of violated my own principle. I kind of violated my own philosophy, and I take full responsibility for that. I apologize for that. I am sorry for that. That will never happen again. And we will move forward, and we're going to make the most of this to some way, shape, or form. It was my own fault for kind of violating, I think, my philosophy a little bit. I really did. I thought, and not only that, it set myself up for disappointment, right? Because I'm thinking, hey, I'm just going to mention it, and the problem's going to be over in like 15 minutes, and I'm never going to have to worry about it again. And then when that doesn't happen, then you start questioning, like, well, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? Why? Then I have to start questioning, what's my motivation? Was my motivation right in the first place, or was my motivation wrong? Why am I getting discouraged? Why am I getting frustrated? Then you start realizing, once again, that you're never, at least I can't speak for you, but I begin to realize over and over and over, I'm never as godly as I think that I am. I'm always more sinful than I thought that I was. I always realize that that sinful nature is very much alive. So I need to set aside feeling, emotion. I need to set aside worry. But I did an entire podcast about not worrying about tomorrow, right? All you can do is focus on today. So I can't worry about tomorrow. I got whatever day it is, when I open up my iPad and go, oh, it's Tuesday, October the 3rd. Okay, well, I can still broadcast. Then I broadcast. If that means the broadcast ends on October the 4th, I broadcast on October the 3rd as if I'm going to always broadcast. And if it ends on October the 4th, it ends on October the 4th. That's the way, I think that's the way you have to do so. And so I think I think my motive was wrong, or at least a little bit. I think, I'll put it this way. I think I violated my overall philosophy. I think I kind of violated that a little bit. I think I allowed my expectation to then lead to discouragement. And I think my discouragement demonstrated that, well, hey, if this is not going to work out, just give up. That questions everything. And I think I then violated the scriptural mandate about how to approach, can't worry about tomorrow. If you have today in front of you, you use today. You don't neglect today because of the possibility you don't have tomorrow. You may not have tomorrow, but don't neglect today. You don't give up today because tomorrow it may come to an end. You use today. And then if tomorrow it comes to an end, it comes to an end, but you did not waste the day before, because then when you get to tomorrow and it comes to an end, well, then you're like, well, yesterday was the last day. Why did I waste it? Being self-pity, pouting, frustrating. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. So I'm going to try to take spiritual lessons from all of this. I'm going to try to take spiritual lessons from all of this. Freely I have received, freely I give. I cannot worry about tomorrow. Do not neglect today. My motivation should remain the same. Turn on the microphone as a sinner sitting in front of a microphone saying, hey guys, this whole Christian thing, it's kind of complicated and difficult. The Word of God, I don't know if you realize it, nobody has agreed on it in 2,000 years. Let's work together. Let's strive together. Let's focus on this. Let's do things like Bible study exercises. Let's do things like study dispensationalism. Let's do things like do a Bible pop quiz. Let's do things like a devotional message. Let's talk about what's going on in the news and just turn on the microphone. Hopefully every time chance I get, and try to produce something that's interesting, intriguing, thought-provoking, maybe at times a little controversial, but challenging people to try to pursue following the things of God to the best of our ability, even though we're all broken, sinful people who fall short and probably are more messed up than any of us want to acknowledge. I should use the opportunity and not worry about when the opportunity will come to an end. So I'm going to use this entire situation from September the 22nd to October the 3rd and try to go, I need to be convicted. I need to be challenged, and I need to come out of this better off spiritually than I went into it. That's what I'm going to try to do. That's what I'm going to try to do. That's what I'm going to try to do. Hopefully, that's what will happen. Hopefully, I will maintain that right attitude. Hopefully, I will let me take that back. Not maintain a right attitude. Hopefully, I will reach a right attitude. Then maintain then even a better attitude moving forward. And then you don't have to be bothered by any of this, of what's going on. And then we'll just see what happens. So moving forward, we move forward. We get back to the business at hand. We get busy. We get to work. We do our best. And then whenever it's going to end, I'm not going to mention it, and it'll just be over. And I think that's the correct way to go. And then it will be deleted from every part of the internet as if it never existed, which I like that. I like that. It's here. It was here for a time, and when its time ended, it came to an end. And I like that. I like that. I like that way of just one day all being gone. I do like, there's something poetic about that. I like that. That's so perfect, right? Hey, you turn on the microphone when it's the time, you ministrate that time. And when that time is up, it's gone. It's just all gone as if it never existed. And then just, no one remembers the podcast. No one remembers me. Nobody. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. All right. So there you have it. You can email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Hopefully something will be beneficial in that for you as well. Hopefully. By Matthew 10:8, I'm going to continue to try to operate based off that philosophy because I think it's the right. I know that has clear implications specifically just for that time, because clearly we don't operate that way in a normal way, right? Because he tells them to take no money, take nothing. He tells them to take nothing because the concept is that they would be supported. That's the idea, that they would be supported. But we don't take all of that. I'm just going to take that general philosophy because it is a biblical philosophy that goes beyond that historical context. Freely I have received. Freely I give. That is a philosophy. Yes, as ministers, should we have to pay for our own warfare? Should we not be able to partake of the fruit? Should we not be able to benefit from feeding the flock? Well, that's up for the people in the pew makes those decisions and how that works. And then you have to determine how much you benefit. Where do you find your greater spiritual benefit? If you benefit from something, then, well, you determine what you want to do about that. There we go. That will bring this to a painful end so that I'll never have to speak of it again. Because that will make life better for me, make life better for you. If you're listening to the Bible Pop Quiz podcast on the Spreaker app or any other app, I am going to wait till today. I'm going to check here in a minute, see if they've messaged me back. If they give me an answer to what happened, I just want to know. And then immediately after that, I'm going to remove it. And the monetization experiment goes away. Gone. And then it'll just be back like to normal. Just like everything will be back to normal. And we can forget this chapter. All right. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. Give me about a 15-minute break. And then we're going to get back immediately to something more beneficial. Something more beneficial, because I don't want this day to be remembered for this. No. I just wanted to bring it to an end. We opened kind of a narrative. We had to close the narrative. We started a story. We had to finish the story. We opened a circle, closed the circle. Whatever metaphor or illustration I should use there. But I wanted to bring it all to an end so that it could all just go away. So give me about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll be right back, and we'll do something far greater and far more important and far more beneficial. Thanks for listening. Everyone have a great day. God bless.